The fire was still burning when they found the bodies. Some shot in the head, others drugged and arranged in a perfect star. A newborn baby was among the dead. Some of them chose this. Others were murdered by people they trusted, people they called brothers. And at the center, a cult led by a charismatic doctor and a man who claimed he could see your past lives and decide your future ones. This wasn't a mass suicide. It was a spiritual ambush. And the most disturbing part, they tried to erase it all, but the fire failed. What survived wasn't just smoke and ashes, but secrets. Secrets that expose how belief becomes control and how a search for meaning can turn fatal. This is the true story of the Order of the Solar Temple. And once you know how it ends, you'll start to wonder how anyone ever said yes. Let's rewind to the early 1980s. You're living in Europe. There's a growing hunger for meaning. Religion feels stale. Institutions feel cold. And then he shows up. A man in a suit. Calm, polished, charismatic. He talks about light, healing, and ancient wisdom. Like it's a lost secret he's finally ready to share. His name is Jouret, a Belgian doctor. Soft-spoken, confident. He talks about homeopathy, spiritual purity, and preparing for the next stage of humanity. Not like a preacher, more like someone who's figured life out. And standing beside him, Joseph de Mambro. He's quieter, less charming, harder to read, but he's the real power. The architect, the one who says he can see your past lives. Together, they build a secret society, a modern-day revival of the Knights Templar, called the Order of the Solar Temple. But you don't join it all at once. It starts simple. You're invited to something called the Amenta Club. No robes, no oaths, just people like you, maybe educated, maybe spiritual, maybe just searching. You sit in on lectures about energy, the environment, healing. It's interesting, harmless, even comforting, until it isn't. You're invited to more private gatherings, told you've shown promise, that you've been chosen, and every layer pulls you deeper. The order is built like a Chinese box, each piece hiding another inside it. First, you're listening, then participating, then submitting. You go through initiations, 3 levels, each with a new title. Frères du Parvis, Brothers of the Court. Chevaliers de l'Alliance, Knights of the Alliance. Frères de temps anciens, Brothers of former times. The Immortals. You don't just level up, you're transformed. You get a new name, a new purpose, a new story of who you've always been. You're told the truth is sacred, that the world isn't ready for it, that you have to earn it. But this wasn't about protecting wisdom, it was about controlling it. Because by the time you reach the center, you're too deep to question anything. And if you're still on the outside, you don't even know what to question. Now, the teachings deepen. The earth is in danger, they say. A spiritual war is coming. But there's hope for the worthy. If you're worthy, the group has a plan for your soul, and sometimes for your body too. De Mambro starts assigning cosmic marriages, couples who join together, families with kids, homes, years of love, are split apart. Why? Because de Mambro claims to see their past lives and says their true soulmate is someone else. It's sold as destiny. In reality, it's control. He reshuffles families like chess pieces, says they're reincarnated knights or priestesses, and their purpose? To create cosmic children, actual babies, engineered unions, raised to believe they were divine prototypes, not metaphor, reality, when love becomes doctrine, when sex becomes assignment. There's nothing left that belongs to you. And yet, You feel like you've been given a backstage pass to the universe. The Order's teachings are a swirling mix: Rosicrucianism, Theosophy, Hindu cosmology, science fiction astrology. You're told you're a reincarnated Knight Templar, connected by blood and spirit across centuries. You hear stories about Agartha, a secret realm beneath the earth, and about beings called the Ascended Masters, who live on Sirius, the blue star. Sirius isn't just a star, it's a beacon, a cosmic exit sign from a dying Earth. The Order believes humanity is shifting from the age of Pisces into the age of Aquarius, a moment of awakening or destruction. Their job, to be the elect, the purified few who survive the flames. But buried in this spiritual alphabet soup is something darker. Some of their literature, especially the works of Julian Origas, hint at white supremacist ideas. The mission, they suggest, is about preserving an elite spiritual bloodline. For most members, this is hidden, beneath metaphor, buried in mysticism. But it's there, and it shapes what comes next. That's how they get you, one belief at a time, one ritual at a time, one layer at a time. What you don't realize is that the secrecy is the strategy. The Order is designed like a Chinese box, safe on the outside, toxic at the core, and by the time you see the truth, you're already trapped. You've made it deeper into the Order now. You've taken part in ceremonies. You wear robes. You've been taught ancient secrets. Names like Agartha, Sirius, the Great White Brotherhood. They swirl through the air like incense. You feel special, awakened, chosen. But then the tone shifts, the messages start to darken. Now there's talk of catastrophe, a fiery apocalypse. The Earth is doomed, unless the elect can escape. That's when you first hear the word, transit. At first, it sounds poetic. Transit is a journey, they say, a passage from this world to the stars, to Sirius, home of the Ascended Masters. But what does transit actually mean? They won't say, not yet. Only this: when the time comes, you'll be summoned, and you must be ready. Then you hear whispers about fire rituals. You see things you can't explain, glowing forms, apparitions, beings of light appearing during ceremonies. They tell you these are the masters, watching over your path. And when you see them, you believe, until someone breaks the illusion. Joseph de Mambro's own son, curious, skeptical, maybe even scared, sneaks into one of the inner ceremonies. He looks where no one is supposed to look, and what he finds isn't divine. It's a projector. The visions, the shimmering spirits from Sirius, all faked, stage lights, wires, optical tricks dressed up as sacred truth. When he tells others, some listen, some leave, but many stay. Because even if the masters weren't real, the mission still felt true. And de Mambro, he doesn't deny it. He leans in, calls it a test of faith, says the betrayal is proof the world is corrupt, proof the transit must come sooner, proof that only the faithful deserve to ascend. Now everything changes. This isn't about enlightenment anymore. It's about survival. October 4th, 1994. You wake up in your ritual garments. Someone knocks softly, a whisper through the door. It's time. You don't panic. You don't hesitate. Because for months, maybe years, this is what you've been preparing for. Not a metaphor, not a ceremony, a moment, the transit. You feel calm, maybe even relieved. The world is ending, but not for you. You're one of the elect. You're going to Sirius. The ceremony begins. You drink something, wine, maybe something stronger. You lie down beside your brothers and sisters in a perfect circle. Candles burn. Incense thickens the air. You're ready, but not everyone in the room is. Because what they didn't tell you is that some people aren't here to transit. They're here to ensure it. In Switzerland, 48 bodies are discovered. In Canada, 5 more. They're not lying peacefully. Some have been shot, others drugged, then executed. Investigators find burned-out chalets, ceremonial robes, letters about spiritual journeys. But the truth is uglier. Some members were labeled traitors and killed. Others were helped to transit with a bullet. Then the killers turned the guns on themselves. And finally, they set the houses on fire. But those flames weren't just for bodies. The order gave one last command: burn everything, the teachings, the finances, the rituals, the blueprint. All of it meant to vanish in fire, a clean erasure. But the ignition system failed, and instead of disappearing, the solar temple left behind evidence. Investigators found documents, videos, membership lists, scripts for the transit speeches. They tried to vanish. Instead, they left the receipts. Receipts that would haunt them in courtrooms, documentaries, and history books. And it didn't stop there. 1 year later, 16 more dead in France. Some again arranged in a star. 2 years after that, 5 more in Canada. This time, the children were spared. They tried to burn the writings again, but the ignition system failed again. And that failure is the only reason we know what really happened. This wasn't a spontaneous suicide wave. It was a script, a spiritual Ponzi scheme where the price of belief was death. And Mambro and Jouret, they didn't die last. They died first, leaving their followers behind to burn. The smoke cleared. 74 people dead across 3 countries. Journalists scrambled for answers. Politicians called for crackdowns. Families mourned and demanded explanations. How did no one see this coming? Why didn't anyone stop it? And who's to blame? One name surfaced: Michel Tabachnik, a famous Swiss conductor, respected, thoughtful, soft-spoken, but also author of 21 mystical texts used by the cult's inner circle. He didn't lead rituals, he didn't pull any triggers, but prosecutors argued his writings helped brainwash the believers. In 2001, he went on trial, charged with conspiracy to commit murder. Again, in 2006. Both times, he was acquitted. The courts couldn't prove intent. His texts were labeled amateur philosophy, and just like that, he walked free. To this day, Tabachnik insists he was a pawn, a scapegoat. That Mambro used him like he used everyone else. While the courts debated guilt, others focused on memory. Documentaries began to emerge. Some, like La Fraternité, unearthed never-before-seen footage, because the cult's plan to destroy its archives had failed. We see the ceremonies, the robes, the rituals. We hear from survivors, like Charles D'Auvergne and Evelyn Brunner. People still haunted by what they witnessed. Former members speak of lingering fear. Families form advocacy groups. They want answers. They want change. They want to make sure this never happens again. And then comes the most chilling part. The Order of the Solar Temple didn't die with its founders. You'd think that after 74 deaths, the robes, the rituals, the star-shaped fires would be gone for good. But belief doesn't need oxygen. In the early 2000s, reports surfaced. The Solar Temple still had between 140 and 500 followers. No more public rituals, no more transits, just fragments, dormant cells. Some were original members, still loyal. Others were new recruits, drawn in by the same promises of secret knowledge. Even without Mambro and Jouret, the ideology lived on. Because once you build a closed system of logic, a belief that explains every failure, every corpse, every lie, it becomes self-sustaining. A cult doesn't need a compound. Sometimes all it needs is a story, and someone lonely enough to believe it. Reports suggest members remained well into the 2000s, maybe even today. No more robes, no more fire, just silence. And the doctrine, underground. Because you don't need a temple to be trapped, just a belief you can't question. And a leader you can't leave. Most people think they'd never fall for a cult. But here's the truth. You don't join a cult. You follow a dream, a community, a purpose, a promise that your life means something. The people who joined the Order of the Solar Temple weren't naive. They were doctors, engineers, parents. They were us. They wanted healing. They wanted truth. They wanted to belong to something bigger. And that's what makes this story so terrifying. Because when belief is weaponized, when doubt is punished, when truth becomes whatever the leader says it is, even the smartest minds can be led into the dark. The Solar Temple didn't start with fire. It started with longing. And it ended when no one was allowed to ask, why? What would you die for? And more importantly, who taught you to believe it? If this story shook you, sit with it. Talk about it. Because silence is where cults grow. Stay curious. Stay skeptical. Stay human. And if you think this could never happen again, look around. It never really stopped. It just changed tactics. And next time, it won't call itself a cult.